Good evening. It's Friday. The weekend is upon us, and Fools Rush In is live. We have got a large panel of guests tonight, ranging in opinions as much as they are ranging in ages. And before we say hello to each and every one of them, we hope you've had a wonderful week. Let's roll the titles.
Take my take my whole life too, but I can't help falling in love with you.
Sweet and turned into the promised land.
So we hope you've had a wonderful week. You're ready for the weekend ahead, and you're ready to kickstart that weekend by getting involved in plenty of STFC related discussion. Let's say hello and good evening to tonight's panel, starting with everyone's favourite fool. Good evening, Nick.
Yeah, good evening, Fifey. How you doing?
Very well, thank you, sir. Yourself?
Yeah, good. I had a good week. Got over last Saturday, so forgot about that and looking forward to tomorrow. It's going to be a cracker.
I've got to ask you, sir, about 4 or 5 hours ago, we thought it was going to be me, you and Ben tonight, and now we've got a whole panel full of people. Are you relieved, or were you looking forward to refereeing the heavyweight tussle?
Well, at one stage, I thought it was you and Ben, so I thought I'd better put my hand up and be referee, because can't have you two arguing for 2 hours, well, even 3 hours. So, yeah, so it will be, well, will it be calm? I don't know. Depends how
long
it goes.
Way to go,
Let's
yeah.
see. Yeah, long way to go.
It's been a while since we've done a 3+ hour show. Maybe we should. They seem to have become popular again.
Well, you never know. You never know.
Next up, for the longest time, he was considered a mythical creature, but now he has got the bug so much he is back again. Good evening to Gary. How are you, buddy?
Evening, gents. All right?
You're very well, thank you. Yourself?
Yeah, living the dream.
Good week?
Again. Yeah, not bad. The week's been all right. Like Nick, as we got on Saturday.
Good.
Let's move on. We've lots to talk about.
We have plenty to talk about. You are right. And plenty of people to talk about it with, including next up, the man of many podcasts. And how did we describe him just off camera? Almost certainly, what was it? He reeks of a Horlicks drinker. Good evening, Ben.
Screams Horlicks drinker.
Screams Horlicks drinker.
Hello.
How are you, pal?
I'm all right. I don't know if I'm going to be all right, but I'm all right. An eventful day in the old household again. But
good.
Yeah, all good to go. Looking forward to the show.
I'm just going to interrupt quickly because I've seen Liam's comment here. Is this the live Winnie the Pooh watch along? I was literally just telling the guys about your tweets yesterday and showing them pictures because most of them didn't seem to know about this. I'm going to be sharing. If you haven't seen the thread on the Lower League Look last night, it's well worth a read. And I want to point out to everyone that they need to watch the Winnie the Pooh. What was it? Death and Honey? No, Blood and Honey. Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. It looks like it's going to be a class watch. On the other hand, he says there's absolutely nothing wrong with Horlicks. So there you go, Ben. You've got someone backing you up. Where are we going next? We are going to the self-proclaimed Oracle. Good evening, Woody.
Good evening. Good evening. How are we?
Very well, thank you, sir. Yourself?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. Now I've suddenly realised that Winnie the Pooh is actually a film.
I told you it was an actual film.
I thought when I saw the trailer on TikTok a while ago, I thought it was just like some guys having a bit of fun. But I've just Googled it, and it's like an hour and 40-minute film.
And Leo will tell you it's worth every minute.
Yeah, I think it probably would be. But you're talking to somebody who grew up on like classics like Airplane and Hot Shots and stuff like that. Something tells me that a spoof of Winnie the Pooh isn't going to be quite up my street.
Don't knock it till you've tried it, Woody. Don't knock it till you've tried it.
That's how I live my love life. Yes, looking forward to tonight's show. I wasn't planning to be on, and along with half of the cast tonight. But yeah, it's a lot to talk about, but some positive stuff.
Yes, it's going to be a very positive show today. I can feel it. Speaking of positive, someone who oozes positivity is Mr. Friday Nights himself. Evening, Joe.
Friday night.
How's it going, fellas?
Very well, thank you, sir. Yourself?
Yeah. Looking forward to it. Not a bad turnout, considering about an hour ago we had 3 of them.
Indeed. Same question for you. Good week?
Yeah, not bad, mate. Not bad. Can't complain.
Good. Liam's been back in touch. When I was young and watched Winnie the Pooh, I always knew something was missing. Murder was that thing, he says. Now, this is quite a... we've got some OGs, some original cast members. We've got some returning favourites. But what we really need to do, I think, to take Fools Rush into the next level is appeal to the younger generation. And to do that, we have called up 2 rising stars from the youth squad, including today's debutante. Welcome to Fools Rush In, someone who's been in many a picture, but never an episode. Evening, Georgia.
Hi.
How are you? You all right?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you guys?
Very, very well, thank you. You finally made it onto the screen.
I did.
And I could see, or I could tell you're very excited to be here.
Mm-hmm. Never felt more happy.
Never felt more happy. Let's see if you're still saying that in a week's time when you're in America.
Actually, that's a good point, to be fair.
You going to America, Georgia?
Yeah.
Even I haven't known that.
No.
We must hear more about it throughout the course of the evening. Just keep dropping little nuggets of information in if you can.
Okie doke.
And also from the youth team squad, arguably the youth team captain with the amount of appearances he's made. Welcome back, Jack.
Hello, Fifey. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Can't
Good.
consider yourself.
He won't get it. That's the problem.
You won't get it.
Jack, Ben's looking a bit somber in one corner. Are you a bit chirpier in the other?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Good. Glad to hear it. Should we get straight into the discussion then? And Swindon Town in action this weekend, hosting Stockport, who are in the or very much in the playoff picture. Georgia, I'll come to you first as you're making a debut. Are you looking forward to the game, and are you optimistic for it?
I think it'll be a good game. The previous performances isn't great. Not good run into the game, but I think we'll be all right.
Okay. And I was listening to Ronan Darcy's pre-match, and he at least came across, whether you believe it or not, that he and the squad of players still seem very confident. Are you confident that recent performances and results can be turned around and we can have a good end to the season?
If all the players are feeling confident enough, I think we might have a bit of more of a chance, but I don't know.
Okay, no, fair enough. Gary, let's bring you in then. Stockport obviously going to offer very difficult opposition, and they've had their form's taken a tiny bit of a dip of late, but they'll still be quite confident coming to the county ground, won't they?
Like I said, they fancy coming to us then, won't they? Easy. Yeah, I mean, it all depends on what lineup we have tomorrow, I suppose. Who's back? Tomlinson. We'll talk about Blake Tracy back. I mean, whether they're going to start, whether on the bench, I don't know. But I think Khan's back, isn't he, from suspension as well? So we might have some more options. We know we can certainly score a goal. So we can get some defensive options back and not concede 4. That might be a chance to win. But, yeah.
It'd be a good start, wouldn't it? Not concede 4 and keep 11 men on the pitch.
Well, Khan's playing, so that's not happening.
Quite. Jack, when I was listening to Jody Morris's interview earlier, he was focusing on, as Gary was saying there, the fact that FBT might be or is back in training, hopefully will feature, whether he starts or not. Wait to be seen. Same with Tomlinson. And said that matching Stockport for physicality as best they can is going to be crucial. Do you agree?
Yeah, obviously it's a physical league and they're a physical team, but at the same time they've got players. I think they've got Paddy Madden up front. He was playing League One football a couple of seasons ago. So but obviously we've got Charlie Austin.
We've got Charlie Austin who was playing Premier League not that long ago.
Yeah, but I think they've got talent as well as physicality. So, it's just you got to get that level, if you know what I mean.
No, completely. Completely understand. Ben, you kind of suggested in our last episode that the majority of people now felt the season was kind of petering out. Our playoff chances were not completely gone, but they were very slim. Do you think if that is the case, that releases a bit of pressure on the players and it might allow them to perform?
Well, they've got to go for it anyway. I think we need to win 8 of the last 10 to stand any chance. We've got a team whether if we are going to stand a chance, we really need to win because it would be considered a 6-pointer if that was the case. I think it is bolstered with the 4 coming in. We've actually got a squad to choose from, and we've got options to change formation rather than just put up with what we've got.
Do you think they'll be fit
have a
enough
lot more
to play?
energy because of that reason.
So I was just saying, do you think they'll be fit enough to play?
I think they have to throw them in really, because if they leave it too long and they don't, then I don't think they'll all start. I think Tomlinson will probably start on the bench. I think FBT will absolutely start because our defensive issues have been shocking, and I think Clayton needs a little break because he's not playing very well, and I think FBT could work well with Brewitt. And I just think if we can win this one, then we've got a good opportunity of turning over Hartlepool, and then who knows? But it's
take it a game at a time, is it, at the minute?
It's a tough ask to win on Saturday, but I think we'll go into the game with a lot more enthusiasm, and I think a lot more. I think we can be a competitive game. That'll be tough.
Okay. Excuse me. Woody, again, referring to the Darcy pre-match, he was saying, having been involved in both games earlier this season, the main thing for his perspective that he was hoping from both he and his teammates is that they go in with the right mentality and attitude. And if they do that, then he's confident that the performance will follow, as will the result.
Yeah, it does seem that we haven't really ticked every box a single game this season, really, in terms of whether we've delivered on quality. We've either not delivered the quality, we've not delivered the mentality, or we've not delivered. It seems that a lot of games, especially recently, we've had a lot of one thing. Unfortunately, quality not so much. I mean, as since January, I've doubted the squad's quality more and more. But we're in that business end of the season where sometimes if you're fired up for a game, then I didn't do it. If you're fired up for a game, that can mean a lot more. Kind of attitude outweighs technical ability sometimes. And like I think Cozzy just quoted there, if Charlie will be in a massive way of confidence now, regardless of us losing or conceding a striker scoring 4 goals in one game is hopefully just going to fire on to potentially a goal a game at the moment. And have we found a way to finally get the ball into him and play? But I think from what I hear of people that were at the last game, they said that he was playing more as a striker, playing more what we expect Charlie Austin to do. If we got that and we've got the mentality side behind us, then who knows? Who knows what might happen? But I do agree with Ronan Darcy. But I think for me, the magnifying glass is therefore on Ronan Darcy because I'm not convinced by him both on his quality and his mentality, to be honest.
Well, it's interesting you say that because he was asked about his recent form, being out of the side, coming back into the side, and how he thought it was going. And he said there were good and bad points. He learned from being out of the team from those that were in it and why he wasn't in it. He said it was bad because you always want to be part of the squad. But he said coming back in the last couple of games for however many minutes he's been able to, he said he felt good and he felt his contributions have been positive for the most part. And he jokingly said he was unfortunate not to score on Saturday because Charlie decided to take all the goals himself.
Yeah, but I think as we're starting to get the injuries back, this is why having that kind of mentality that we could still go up. I still want the players believing that they can still go up. But if we can get that win, all of a sudden those players that are suddenly coming back from injury, lose their place in the side. And all of this kind of stuff. So you want them wanting to be a part of a promotion chasing side. And that's what I want to see from those players. The problem is I feel that if we do lose, potentially 2 more games, we're very much then a mid-table side. There's probably no chance of us finishing above mid-table. And all of a sudden I think attitudes change, especially those who are not potentially going to be here next season. So it does have a massive way on the mentality side there. But me and Joe were both at me, Joe, and Georgia. All 3 of us were at the Malcolm game, and I said then that I wasn't impressed with Darcy. I'm not seeing anything that's going. He's scored a good goal, and he's done a couple of other things, but I don't see how, personally, and this is only my personal opinion, I don't see how he's keeping Aguiar out of the team. In my personal opinion, I think that I haven't seen much that separates them. In fact, arguably, I think Aguiar's been better in what I've seen of Aguiar. So, but the mentality is key. And if Charlie Austin's waking up, firing, then just feed the ball to him. I don't really, again, for me, tomorrow, especially against a team like Stockport, who have got a good rank. I think Stockport are better than I thought they were going to do, as we will remember from the predictions episode. But they've got a good bank of players. Jack's already mentioned Paddy Madden. They've got Kyle Noyle. They've got Kyle Wotton. Players like that aren't.
I liked Noyle when he was here.
Yeah, they're decent League 2 players. So, we need to be up for it. And if it's that old saying that if one player isn't 100% up for it, the other players have got to be more than 100%. Have got to perform more than 100%. And I just don't. I worry that we've got to, every single player has got to be fired up for tomorrow. If we're not, we'll lose the game.
Before I carry on, sort of doing the rounds and going for everybody, does anyone else want to jump in on Darcy and offer a view, positive or negative?
Yeah, he's not good enough in my opinion.
Okay. What makes you say that?
You can't fault his work ethic and his work rate, but he's not physical enough and he's not creative enough. He doesn't do anything in midfield for me. And I think in a game like tomorrow, if he's in the starting 11, he'll just be an absolute passenger because Stockport will run all over him. I'm sure he's in the young 20.
He's weighted that way.
Yeah, probably a better player in League One, funnily enough, where you can play a bit more football. with a bit more time on the ball. But in League Two, he's just too lightweight.
Okay. Anyone of the rest that haven't commented yet? Is there anyone that's very pro Darcy? No, quite clearly not.
I think his effort is great. His attitude's okay, but I think the ability is the question. He runs about but doesn't do anything. He's not particularly good at anything. He's not terrible, but he's not. He doesn't stand out. I think he's a very average lower half League Two player.
I mean, there was
Nigel
a point
makes.
where,
Oh, sorry, Gary. Go on.
sorry, I was just about to say there was a point where we saw him shooting a lot, didn't we? And he scored a goal or two from long range, and he thought he's got a shot on him, but again, that seemed to have stopped. He's not done that either. So
I've just
that one
left.
thing he did offer.
I've left Nigel's comment on the screen just for a minute there because I've said to most of you on more than one occasion, I find when I see Darcy play, he's never more than a 45-minute man. He can't maintain any sort of level of performance for 90 minutes. If you play him for 45, and at one point, I think it was after Salford at home, like game 2 of the season or whatever it was, I think I turned around to Mark and I said, the way I see this panning out is Williams plays one half, Darcy plays the other, and it would probably work. Because at that point, I wasn't convinced that Williams was doing 90 minutes either. And that was just a couple of games into the season. But again, I think I agree with the comments made so far. His work rate and his endeavour is to be commended, but I'm yet to see anything of consistent quality from him. But then that could be labelled with just about everyone in the squad this year, I think. Dan's saying here, excuse me, Darcy lacks any real creative ideas when he has the ball. On that note then, Joe, with regards to midfield, he was asked, again, this is Darcy, he was asked what it's like having so much competition and do players thrive on that? And he said it depends on the players themselves, but there is a lot of competition, particularly in the midfield area. What do you think is our best setup? If we were to implement a Swindon way, what would your setup, particularly in that midfield area, be? Because we've all bemoaned the lack of creativity and said it's obvious that we lack a ball winner. You know, we've just seen Anthony Grant sign for Crawley, and no one's suggesting he would be the answer for this year. But I think me and Woody said in the WhatsApp chat, for the remainder of the season, we would have took him just to fill a hole sort of thing.
Yeah, I think it's tricky. I think that the comment he made about competition for places, I think the trouble is they're all the same. All those midfield players are all do exactly the same job. There is no Anthony Grant type. There is no Michael Doughty type. They're all 5 yards sideways, 5 yards sideways. Very pretty footballers, but for me, this might be controversial, but if Blake Tracy's back, I'd stick Brewitt as a holding midfielder.
Okay.
Just for a bit of physicality, bit of height, bit of physicality. He likes to tackle.
Well, interestingly, just on that, and sorry, just while you've made that point, did we not hear that Clayton played there for Liverpool as a holding midfielder at times? Minton supposedly played there as well for Swindon at youth team level.
Not sure Clayton's mobile enough, personally.
Okay.
And I think he's doing a great job, apart from last Saturday, but he's been doing a good job at the back. But I think with Blake Tracy, I think he'd go back in at centre back. I just think if you had Brewitt in front of a back four, just offering a bit of what's the word I'm looking for? Dogginess, I guess. Like, you know, he's not afraid of doing the horrible stuff, getting stuck in, winning headers. And then I'd have probably Williams and Khan in front of him, because Williams is a lot more attacking. Khan is box to box, but he carries the ball very well. I know he's a bit of a liability with his red card record, but he's different to.
If he's got someone extra behind him, though, that should avoid the need for him to make half the rash challenges he does.
I think we've all said, haven't we, this season, that he's not really a holding midfielder.
No, he certainly isn't.
As in, he's not a ball winning holding midfielder. He could play as a deep line playmaker or whatever you want to call it, but he's not going to win many balls in there. But yeah, that's perhaps controversial, but that's the way I'd go. I'd stick either a Brewitt or a Minton in there as a holder, and then Khan and Williams give you something a little bit different through the middle.
For me, the interesting thing there, because I like the idea of another ball winner in the midfield. Interesting that you've left out McEachran, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult. I like it. I really do like him, but I'm struggling to see how he would best suit this team. Perhaps in a number 10. Perhaps as a, perhaps we could stick a diamond in midfield and have McEachran as a 10 behind the front too.
Exactly.
Yeah,
what people were asking about Williams earlier in the season.
I think, yeah, it's. And as I was saying, I think we've got too many players that are too similar and don't necessarily fit into the setup that we have at the moment. And I think our midfield players, we do need just an out-and-out defensive midfielder.
Mm-hmm.
Just, I know
100%.
I know Anthony Grant's name always comes up, but it is that type of player that we need. Just somebody who's just going to sit there.
Mm-hmm. No, I understand that.
Get in between the centre backs and help out at the back, and 5-yard ball to somebody a bit more creative.
No, makes perfect sense. Good evening to AC, who says, I'm a tad behind, but fully behind in agreeing with the lack of Darcy Love. Looking busy, offers nothing. Nick, I haven't come to you yet, so let's invite you into discussion. If I refer to the Jody Morris interview, he's still clearly very frustrated in a number of things, particularly from last Saturday. Hoping to improve. He identified again for probably the fifth or sixth interview in a row, we need to be better when we're on the ball, and identified people making individual decisions and not losing concentration, particularly from set pieces.
Yeah, 100%. We need to be able to pass a 5-yard ball to one of our own players. And we need to keep control of the ball. And it's especially Saturday, we need to deprive Stockport of having the ball, because it's already been said they're a big physical side, and they will run you into the ground. So the more we can hold the ball and play our football, the less chance they've got of doing anything against us. The interesting thing is that their recent results are exactly the same as ours. They've won one, lost one, and drawn 3. So they're not in great form. So from that point of view, that gives us, to me, a more than even chance against them. And as I've said, we need to play a bit of football, hold the ball, and prevent them from doing what they want to do. I'm sure after the comments that have been made, every player, bar Charlie Austin, would know that last Saturday was an absolute shit show. Morris has come out and said it. I like him. He doesn't pull his punches. He says it how it is. He doesn't try and cover it up. Even when we were 2-0 up, he said we were so poor that how the hell we were 2-0 up was like, what's going on? So they've got a lot to prove. Some of us went to Stockport in the FA Cup. And we got an absolute soaking. So they owe us for that. So I'm expecting a massive reaction on Saturday. So yeah, I'm quite positive, and I'm looking forward to the game.
In terms of all pulling together, Jack, one of the interesting things Morris did say, he'd made a few comments in previous interviews about the fans, particularly at home. But he said in the last home game, he actually really appreciated what the fans did. He spoke about the volume and going throughout the game. Do you think with the current situation in terms of league position, performances, do you think the volume from the fans will still be there? Are you confident of that?
Well, I personally don't think it'll be as good. I mean, the fact that we were hoping to, at this point, probably be in a playoff spot is something that I don't think the fans will appreciate too much. But I think there'll still be backing, but I don't think it'll be as good as it usually is, to be honest.
Okay. And do you think there's a way of, if it starts well, not necessarily even taking the lead, but if the performance looks good in the first 5 minutes, do you think the fans will still warm to the occasion then?
Yeah, because you've also got Stockport fans as well. They'll bring quite a few. They've got a good fan base. They've also got, they're quite loud as well, so they'll probably bring an atmosphere with them, because this is once again a big game for them as well. So I feel as if there's a good first 5-10 minutes, then both sets of crowds will want to, push their team forwards more, and it'll create a better game.
Okay. Georgia, for you, we had obviously Joe there talking about different setups, and we had the mention of the players coming back. Do you think at this stage, with how most people believe the season is going to pan out, is it a chance to try new players, or do we keep playing our best or perceived best 11 until any possible achievement is mathematically impossible?
Right. So I think now that we know we're probably not going to get playoffs, I think just try new players out, see what they're like, give them game time, because if they're not getting anything, they're not going to improve. They're not going to be able to do all of these things. So I think just start planning for next season. Start playing younger players like Aguiar. He doesn't get enough game time for how he is. Minturn, people like that.
Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense to me. And interestingly, on that subject, Woody, I'll come to you next. Dan's saying here, is it worth trying a diamond formation again in the midfield, or with the attacking front three with RHM and Wakeling either side of Austin?
Excuse me. I think I'd love them to play like a 4-1-3-2 or something, to be honest, and just go a little bit more attacking. But I think we'll set up the same way we did last weekend, even though we drew, in terms of formation. I think there seems to be a bit of a connection with Austin having kind of a player either side of him, which I think they kind of like at the moment. So really, if you're doing that, you can only have the three in midfield. It's just that personnel, like Joe was referring to earlier. I agree with Joe in terms of, I don't know if Brewitt's the answer, but having someone like Brewitt as that holding player who is literally there to protect the defence, defensive midfielder rather than a holding midfielder, and then have the creative players in front of him. Just a bit like we I know we talk about it a lot because he did do a great job for us, but a bit like what Granty used to do. Granty wasn't known for his taking the ball into midfield. He was known for making sure it didn't even get to the defence and then pass it forward. So I don't necessarily agree with George's point. I don't think the fan base will be forgiven enough to be trialing all of the new stuff yet. I think we need to be mathematically out of it before we start doing that. Personally, I think it's, what was the term Craig used? Was it it's not impossible, but it's improbable, I think he said. So until it's really impossible, I think the fan base itself as a whole won't be forgiven enough if we're, starting to think about resting some of our stronger players. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't be giving them more chances now, because they're especially the younger ones, they'll be eager to go. So if it's 0-0 with 60 minutes or whatever, bring Abu Kanu on, kind of that's a different scenario, but I wouldn't necessarily change everything straight up. But they had their chance. I do think it'll be 4-3-3 again. I can't see it changing from that, and I think although we question how he fits in the side, obviously George McEachran's he is a Jody Morris player. He's exactly what Jody Morris wants. So Jody Morris will build that midfield around him, and which is probably why we're probably going to see Darcy tomorrow as well. I wouldn't be surprised if it's, as much as I think it's weaker that way, I wouldn't be surprised if it's Kane, Darcy, and McEachran, which terrifies me. But I'd actually rather have Kaji in there than Kane, I think. But
I'm not a big Kane fan.
But what I'll tell you, one thing it does do, and the good thing is we can't work it out what could happen, which means Stockport probably can't work it out, which is probably going to work in our advantage, because as Ben said in the WhatsApp chat the other day about FBT potentially being back and Tomlinson potentially being back, and I can't remember who the other player was.
McEachran.
McEachran was fine, and obviously Khan, has done enough in training to get himself back in the, back in the lineup now in terms of he would have had to because he's had about 150 game suspension. So yeah, so I think I say it pretty much every week at the moment. We need to focus on our strengths, and we need to overload our strengths, which our strengths are going forward. Charlie Austin is just the tip of that. In terms of scoring 4, we can't doubt that Hepburn Murphy has a little bit about him. Wakeling has a little bit about him. Put Johnny Williams on his day. Johnny Williams on his day is one of the best players in this league. So we just need him to be on his day. So it's yeah, but then it raises the question: if we play 4-3-3, does that mean Johnny Williams doesn't start? The problem is when it's annoying that it's our defenders that aren't being sacrificed. I'm trying to make that make sense in some ways.
Yeah.
That our better players are the ones that can't get into the team.
So to clarify that, for example, my next question to Joe is: we seem to be going along the lines of Hepburn, Murphy, Austin, Wakeling, but in the version that you've given us, that means Johnny Williams, who gets into just about any League Two side, almost certainly, and we're saying he doesn't get into this team.
Well, I'd personally, I'd rather. Sorry, I know it's Joe's question. I'd rather have Williams and then Hepburn Murphy. But it just shows that's what I mean. Like the players that we would consider the slightly stronger players are the ones that are going to have to miss out because we need to tweak the formation.
Go on then, Joe. I already asked you to make up a midfield. Now make up the attacking line.
It's tricky, and again, we're trying to play wingers, but we don't have any wingers.
It's frustrated me for the best part of 6 months. That
for me, it's got to be Austin and another through the middle. Whether that be the pace of Hepburn Murphy, the work rate of Wakeling, do you go for 2 target men and him and Adaloy and just launch the ball in the box? There's options there. There's options, but for me, playing the 3, we're wasting players there because Wakeling is not a winger. Whether you look, I love him as much as the next guy, and I love his work rate and his endeavour. He's not a winger.
It's interesting that point actually, because 10 minutes ago we were talking about all Darcy has is work rate and endeavour, and what does he offer the team? And now you're saying exactly the same thing about Wakeling, but we're trying to make sure he gets in the team.
He's got far more ability than Darcy will ever have.
Yeah.
Will ever have?
Yeah.
Harsh. Joe is taking no prisoners tonight.
But this guy, right, what's he on, 7 or 8 league goals? He's been out of position for 80% of the season. Play him in his best. The trouble we've got in the whole team is we're playing players in the wrong bloody positions. Wakeling is a centre forward. He needs, alongside somebody like Austin, he'd be perfect. Austin winning flick-ons, holding the ball up, whatever. Wakeling would be perfect there.
So you're going back towards a 4-4-2 diamond almost then?
I just think you got to play to what the players we've got, and we don't have wingers. So why are we trying to play wingers? We don't have. You name me one player we've got that's a tricky winger. We haven't got one.
I'm just waiting for someone to say Shade. I'm daring someone to say Shade. Look at Georgia, just no.
We don't have a winger. Johnny Williams, all right, can play there. He's not really a winger either.
No. Again, I would love to see Williams behind the front too.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't understand why both managers this year, Lindsay and Morris, it's like they're trying to fit players into a formation that they want to play rather than they're just
square pegs round holes.
Yeah. Rather than thinking, right, we've got 58 central midfielders, let's play a diamond for 4 central midfielders. We don't have wingers, so why are we playing them? It just doesn't make sense to me at all.
Problems with Swindon, we seem to be heavily stacked in some positions and woefully short in others. It's just how we are. It's recruitment, isn't it?
The trouble is we're heavily stacked in positions, but none of them are bloody good enough.
I'll tell you one position we're heavily stacked in: left back. None of them ever seem to be available to play. Nick,
and to be fair, sorry to butt in, but what causes just there is Williams is he is right. He is a luxury player. You need him. You can't be relying on him to come back defending and doing things like that. He needs to be, when you're defending, he needs to be up with the forwards. You can't be relying on him coming back defending because it's just, and that is correct. He needs the right balance of players around him. And again, it's difficult. It is difficult at the moment.
Lots of comments coming through on Ben's attire this evening regarding whether he's going to be mugging or flashing is the latest one to come through.
Flashing. It's a hoodie.
Nick, let me throw one at you at the other end of the pitch. We have had many a game where we have praised the contribution of Sol Bryn. In more recent times, we're starting to see just a little bit of criticism aimed his way. Now, obviously, there is no competition for him. We know if fit, he plays. Do you personally have the faith in him to reach the levels of performance required for the remainder of the season?
Yeah, to quote a term, that's a very good question, Fifey. Thanks for that.
And to quote my reply, I try and ask one every episode.
Shot stopping, yeah, he's good. He seems to have fallen into the premise of not commanding his 6-yard box, which he should be with the size that he is. Whether that's because the chopping and changing of the defence, and he's not sure if the centre half's going to go for it, if he should go for it, and there's a bit of confusion in there. That's probably half of it. So, and again, he is probably his first real season in this type of football. He's got the potential to be a good keeper. He's already said he wants to be Middlesbrough's number 1 next season. Well, that ain't going to happen, without a doubt. But I just go back to, I don't think we should have a lone keeper. We should have our own keeper. Should be a proper, decent, experienced guy between the sticks. But that's my view on that. But going on. Yeah, he would do a job for us, and he's not the worst keeper in the league, and he's probably one of the better ones. So he's probably in the top 6, maybe top 10. So he saved us a few games, saved us a few points this season, but he's also cost us a few, which is what you expect with somebody who's learning his trade. So that's just the way it is, and that's how we've set our whole stall up this season. But going on to the previous discussions around how we should set up. For me, I would go 4-4-2. I would leave Williams out of the side. He's done nothing since the World Cup. One of the goals Saturday was his fault. He can't tackle, fell on his ass. They broke, they scored. That was down to him not making a tackle on the halfway line, not winning the ball. So I would drop Williams, and I would have a midfield of Kadji, McEachran, Khan, and Tomlinson. That would be my forward midfield with Austin and Hepburn Murphy up front. So I'd probably taken a different tack than most. We have to go shit or bust on Saturday, and if that's all out attack, that's what it needs to be. Don't fanny about, and that's what to me has got to happen on Saturday.
Interesting, but again, just sticking with you, Nick, as we opened it up with regards to the goalkeeper situation. Where's the keeper we had last season back from Sutton? The understanding is that there's still Sutton-related contractual issues there. Everyone assumed he was set to come back. If everything had gone to plan, do you imagine he would have staked a claim for number 1 at this point?
No.
No, you think?
No. If you take a lone keeper, you're going to play him, because if we don't play him, it costs us money. So if he plays the full season, I think the way it works out from what we were told a couple of seasons ago when we had Bender, that it cost us nothing, because the more games he plays, the less money we have to pay for them. So Ward would have just been number 2. He wouldn't have replaced him. I'm 100% convinced of that.
Okay. Gary, it's as if Christian had a copy of the script before I got a chance to ask you, because he has sent a comment in and it was leading into my next question. And he's put, gents, watch Hutton's positioning tomorrow and discuss on Monday. Gets caught out on the right, which there was a follow-up comment in the chat as well. Hutton can't defend. couldn't at his previous club either. Widely considered by the majority of people, at least a candidate for player of the season, yet we're discussing a right back that can't defend.
Well, you have to question him going defensive. I think he's very good going forward, but I don't think he's a great defender, not one-to-one. I think he gets caught out quite a lot.
And how do we solve that problem then? If he's being deployed as a main weapon for us, particularly, we've just been discussing having four-man midfield, which would then put more emphasis on the fullbacks becoming wing-backs and getting forward. But we don't have the protection there for him, surely.
No, and I think that's what we tried the three at the back, haven't we? We tried going back to five and then having almost like the wing-backs to offer some sort of protection to the fullbacks when they are going forward. Whether that's worked or not worked, I don't know. But it feels like he's either got to play wing back and be wide and not be reliant to be so defensive, or we almost just play him wide as almost like a winger type sort of player. It's an option, put him forward and just say, well, you go forward then.
In a situation that we haven't had yet, but let's talk hypothetically, okay? FBT's fit, Tomlinson's fit, Devine's fit, Hutton's fit, and Lavinia's fit. Is Hutton not getting in the team, in your opinion? Are you going Lavinia on the right and one of the others on the left?
No, I think you still play Hutton for his crossing ability alone.
Okay. And then just work out the defensive plan for covering him when he's caught out.
Yeah, and maybe that's the way to do it. Like I said, push him more forward. Maybe he does play more wide mid winger sort of thing, and you have someone like Blake Tracy behind him or someone being the defensive holding player.
Okay, interesting. On the fullback debate, does anyone else want to jump in before I go to Ben with the next question?
Well, I was going to say, actually, I'd like to see at some point, maybe a little later on the season or even straight away, I'd like to see Lavinia play right back because that's his preferred position. We've not seen him yet. I think Hutton is...
He doesn't own a left foot, does he? Let's be honest.
Yeah. Well, no, he cuts in on his right. He's been a little bit better on his left because me and Jack had this debate throughout the season when I was watching Lavinia because I went, he's a right back. He shouldn't be on the left. And then he did the Grimsby game and he had to be flying down the left. And then he's taken off ever since. But I think Hutton's a great wing back. I think he's a good wing back because he's got three centre backs behind him. He does get caught out being too offensive. I think I'd like to see, if we are playing right backs, I'd like to see Lavinia on the right and maybe Tomlinson on the left or FBT on the left and see where we go there. Is in tomorrow again. I've been advocate of the Diamond all season. We played it once in the league and we scored 5 goals. And I think we could
once in the cup and got
yeah, we did. Well, once in the cup, but then we played in the cup. But what did Lindsay do? He plays about with the squad and puts like Reedy attacking centre midfielder. What's all that about? So he mucked about with the squad. So right formation, wrong team, and then just dumps the Diamond altogether, and then we never see it again. So that's just an option, isn't it? But it's one of many, which is good. We've got options, we've got players back, and then we can do 1 or 3 or 4 positions. So it's good that we've actually. I think this is the first time that the manager's actually had this choice since he's been here of a squad.
Anyone else on the fullbacks before we head to the next question? No? Okay. So Ben, you just your last point there. You mentioned the manager and having options. Between everyone so far, we've kind of dissected each area of the pitch. Do you believe Morris is stamping his? I don't want to say stamping his authority. It's the wrong term. Is he managing to get his blueprint within the team yet? Obviously, the parts aren't fully working, but are you starting to see what Morris's Swindon will look like?
You could see. I think it was. I noticed actually in the Walsall game where they sort of pressed and they pressed in packs. So someone get the ball and then like 2 or 3 players would be straight at him. I like that. That was a Wellens trait as well. So he does need a team that's fit. We wouldn't mind having a team with a defence as well. I think injuries have plagued and suspensions has played what he wants to do with the squad a lot of the time, because he's left with players that he doesn't really want to go with. So I think he's earned. Well, I think he's got a bit of a free pass into the summer, really, until he's got his own squad. But yeah, you can see the stuff that he's trying to do. But I know you hate that, Fifey, don't you?
There is no such thing as a free pass.
Well,
he would have had
I personally won't judge him until he's got his own squad together.
5 months in charge. He would have had by the end of the season.
What's that?
He came in January. The end of the season's in May. Okay, he came in the end of January and it ends the beginning of May. So 4 months he would have been in charge. 4 months is not a free pass.
No, it's not a free pass, but I won't judge him. I don't think it's fair to judge him until he's got his own squad. He could lose every single game, but what I mean, he's not had a defence, has he? Since he's been here, all the defenders started dropping out. He's not had a settled defence. He's not had a settled team. There's all these players suspended. Tomorrow is the first time he's got a squad to choose from.
And because he's got the squad to choose from, he's likely to mix it up again.
No, he's got a squad to choose from, as in, I can play this formation or I can go this way. I've got different options for wanting to do something differently halfway through the game. He's never had that all season because he's left with bare bones from like when he joined till now. And now we've got players back and he's got a bit of a choice. And we'll probably, hopefully, see a better performance. Well, we don't know. We'll see. But personally, I'm not going to really judge him until next season, when he's got his own squad and his own team and he's had a pre-season with them.
We've also spoken quite a lot recently about game management, both from the players and from the touchline. Is that still an area of concern for you?
I think time will tell a little bit. Obviously, he's learning on his feet as well. This is his first job. So if academy football is a lot different. Yeah, in saying that, he's had enough experience at Chelsea and Derby.
I was going to say, let's not rule him out as just an academy coach.
That a little bit, because so he should know. He should know really and picked up game management, and he's also been a player himself. So, and he's worked under some top managers in his career. So, yeah, I think that comes in time. Again, I think the time to judge him will be next season.
Okay. Anyone else? Again, let's open that topic up for anyone else with regards to Morris in-game management. You know, do you all agree? Maybe you disagree with me. Do you agree with Ben? Is he getting a free pass till the end of the season, regardless of performance and results?
I wouldn't say a free pass as such, but I think the pressure is off him. And I think I do partly agree with some of what Ben said. He has had problems with the squad and blah, 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 but some of the performances have been dire, absolute dire. And you can't sugarcoat that. Whether you've got injuries or not, the effort's still got to be there. The basics have still got to be there. Some of the goals we're conceding are absolute criminal, laughable. Yeah. And, you know, goes back to the point about the goalkeeper. The goalkeeper, yeah, great shot stopper, but I'm going to go Roy Keane here. That's what he's paid for.
Yep.
There is
much.
Morris
has got to take some responsibility for some of these results now. He's been here long enough. He knows it's his tactics, it's his squad. Is Charlie Austin dropping back in the midfield because he's been told to do that? Or is that Charlie Austin doing it off his own back because he wants the ball and wants, you know, he's doing the tactics and setting the squad out. It's his responsibility now on some of these results. Yes, he will get a bit of time, and yes, he will get not so much pressure heaped on him. But I think now it's time to sort of look and go, this is still on you a little bit. The players can go out there, but you do the tactics, you do the squads, and you do the, you know, the lineups and everything like that.
If only we had someone with some real life coaching experience who could maybe offer an opinion on this kind of thing. Oh, evening, Woody.
No, I don't really have an opinion on it. Well, I think I kind of agree. I think Cozzy put a comment up. I do a little bit agree with kind of you should be able to manage the managing other squad, managing other managers' squads, which I think would mean I would expect better performances. If the quality's not there, as we've said a few times, that's fair enough. If the players aren't good enough, that's fair enough. But I think I'm trying not to say that he gets a hall pass just because it's not his squad yet. Because at the end of the day, the guy is, he's coached with some of the best players and coached with some of the best coaches in the world. So it's, I think we can't just let him off because we're, desperate for him to do well next season. But I think there needs to be a stage at where we go, did we get it wrong in recruitment, or is the manager's been the wrong choice? It's got to be one or the other as the reason why we've not got to where we are. I mean, it is hard. It is hard managing another team's players, another manager's players. But then were they really Scott Lindsay's players? It was, I think it's almost like a poison chalice, isn't it? Whoever gets the Swindon job at the moment, and I think it's been like that for a few years, to be fair. But yeah, I think I'm not going to call his head this season. I think the pressure is off on him, but I do expect the season. I do expect the performances to improve. But the one thing I'll give him is he ain't afraid to take a player off if he's playing shit. He's done that a couple of times already this season. So you've got to admire him in some ways for that, because we didn't have that really under Lindsay. If there was one thing I criticised him for, Lindsay did take too long to take off players that were ineffective. Shade. It's. I just think that, yeah. But for me, the reason I'm giving him the most slack is because I don't believe the squad's good enough. I don't believe this. That's hypocritical to what I was saying in October. But I don't believe the squad's good enough. So I don't think we can point everything at Jody. Yes, we need to see better performances, and yes, we need to see him have the willingness to change things. And I think tomorrow's going to be a lot bigger game than we think it's going to be, because we need to see, this is almost that kind of last chance to really push on and really show intent, because they are a team that are in the playoffs as well. So we need to upset them. Results kind of went our way during the week as well. I think, was it Mansfield drew? I think it was Mansfield drew as well. So, it's that old saying, is it back in our hands? It's not in our hands still, but if we're not doing the business, it ain't going to fucking make a difference what the other teams do. So, I just, kind of mixing a little bit with what George's point is. Same with Charlie Austin. He's not indispensable here. If he shows up tomorrow and plays a shit 60 minutes, slug him off. It's kind of, I want to see that. I want to see players earning their place, and that is up to the manager to get the fucking players going. It is. I want Jody to be in that changing room saying, look, it's you guys in this changing room that can achieve this playoff position. I could sit there with the tactics all day. I could give you how I want you to play, but if you ain't going to do it when you cross the line, then we ain't going to do it as a team. So yes, whilst I do agree that a good manager should be able to manage anybody, let's be totally honest, as much as I do like Jody Morris, and that's just because I've, been on CPDs and stuff with him. So I like him from a coaching perspective, but he's a League Two manager for a reason. So is he going to be a top level manager at the moment? Probably not. So really, he does need that little bit of help with the quality of players that are backing him up, which I hope he gets in the summer. But if we go on a dross now between now and the end of the season in games that we shouldn't be losing, I mean, the typical stat would be we shouldn't lose to anybody below us in the league. That should be the way we look at it. We should not now lose to anybody below us in the league. And if we start losing games, etc., then I'm not going to be necessarily Jody fully out, but I wouldn't be surprised if he goes, because the squad isn't good enough for me to get into the playoffs, but the squad's good enough to put performances on the pitch, and put a bit of heart, grit, and stuff. There are players in that squad who need to prove a point, and that's what I want to see. I want to see them prove. Even Bryn, to a certain extent, Bryn needs to prove why he's going to be Middlesbrough's number one day. Brewitt needs to prove that he's not an absolute twat. It's Blake Tracy, Tomlinson needs to prove that he's not the player that is just going to give us a bloody massive medical bill. He needs to show us that, we might get 30 games out of the season from him, but they're going to be 30 good games. He needs to prove that. Charlie Austin, to a certain extent, yes, I would love Charlie Austin to still be here next year. If we're in League Two, I think it's unlikely, but he should still be playing like he wants to be here, and I think he's probably the only one that does. But yeah, Johnny Williams, I think, to be fair, I actually think that Johnny Williams gets doesn't get as much credit as he deserves because of his name. But players like George McEachran, all of them should just be playing like they fucking want to be here and putting it out like that. Even the loan players, those loan players could be looking at this going, what, are we 11th? Are we 11th at the moment? 12th?
Yeah,
12th. They could be looking at that going, we were 12th in March. End of March, we were 12th. And one of the loan players, helped us get into the fucking playoffs from an almost impossible position. That's the mentality they all need to have. And Jody needs to be telling them that.
Okay, so that's interesting. So Jack, let me ask you, okay, if we continue the current trend of performances and results, is it likely to be a lot sooner into next season that the pressure that Morris isn't under now, and everyone's giving him the free ride for, starts to appear? So, for example, if we end the season how we are now, are we talking September, October before the pressure gets to him as opposed to December, January?
I think the pressure's on to him as soon as his transfer window starts. If we carry on losing, drawing every game, then I think we have to get in early on the transfer window. He needs to get the players he wants. If he doesn't manage to do that, then come 10 games into the season, I wouldn't be surprised if people are on his back if we're not picking up performances.
Okay. And Georgia, from what you've seen over the last few weeks, kind of similar to what I asked Ben at the beginning of this, have you seen enough from Jody Morris himself to say, I can see what he's trying to do?
I think it's too early to tell, because he hasn't had, he's come in with not, the players he wants. He's brought in a few good players, like George McEachran. But I do think he's, he does mean well. I think he is going to do well. I think we just need to give him a bit more of a chance.
Okay. And that's what Nick's saying here in the comments, I think, where he says, you need to give Jody the summer. You can't moan this season. Next season with Swindon fans, they will want him out if they lose the first game. Okay. Before I go round and ask everyone their predictions, does anyone want to come in on anything else specifically for the game tomorrow? Okay. Nick, let's start up in the top corner with you then. A prediction for tomorrow, please, sir.
As I said earlier, I'm quite positive about tomorrow. We will concede. As I told Clem the other week, our defence ain't good enough not to let a goal in, which I don't think he liked very much. And I did have a bet with him, but he didn't come back and pay up. But there you are. Because he said he don't drink, so fair enough. I think we'll win 3-1.
Okay. Gary?
Yeah, I'm going for a tight game too, but I think we might just nick it 2-1.
Okay. Nigel saying, I predict it will be windy. is his prediction. And Nick going 3-2. Ben?
I was going to say same as Nick, actually, 3-2, as he just popped up there. I gave that prediction earlier today, and I think we'll stand by it. I think we're a bit of a humdinger. Proper game tomorrow. 3-2.
Okay. So another game where neither side can defend then. Woody?
Well, I can't go as it stands tomorrow, which is really annoying because I would have quite liked to go into it. So it's probably going to be a 4-3 win to somebody. Paddy Madden's bound to score any. But let's go... Yeah, I'm going to go 4-3. 4-3 Swindon. And Charlie Austin's only going to get 1.
Oh dear, we're all chicken Swindon wins at the minute. This never bodes well.
Cozzy's gone for 2-2 draw. Dan's say he's a lot less optimistic for goals. Just a 1-1 draw. Joe?
Having watched us play Stockport in the FA Cup earlier in the season, I think they're going to be too strong for us tomorrow.
Okay.
Just the style of play, the work rate, physicality. I just think we're not going to be up to it. So I can see a 2-0 defeat.
Okay. Georgia?
I reckon we'll score, but we're also going to concede. All of these goals come in from corners as well. We need to sort that out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are getting too many goals from corners. just open headers. I'm going to go 2-1 loss.
2-1 loss. That's not great. Debut and you're already predicting us to lose.
So we can't all predict anything until we do that. We do lose. So I'm quite pleased.
I also think we'll lose. I think we'll lose 3-1 tomorrow.
Losing 3-1. Well, thank you, you youngsters. This is why you're in the youth team. We need to teach you how to do this properly. Fairly mixed bag of results there. That is for sure. But it's sure to be a fascinating afternoon at the county ground, and clearly one if our panel is even close to being right, where there will be goals for all in attendance to enjoy. Let's move on from the men's team then and have a quick word, if we can, Woody, on the women's team this weekend. The fixtures have had a bit of a shuffle round, and the first team are actually playing at Fairford on Sunday. Their game that was postponed last week against Moneyfields.
Yeah, I don't really know why that is. I don't know if there's a logistical
James didn't
thing
I was listening to TSTBL midweek, and he said he didn't understand why they'd done it that way either.
No, I don't know whether it's because maybe Moneyfields have put in a pre-date request for the other fixture or something to say they couldn't play or whatever. But yeah, no. I mean, if my game's called off, I might try and get out to that one. To be fair, Moneyfields, as everybody knows, are about 150 times now. They're my old foe, so the it should be a good game. That should, if anybody likes if anybody likes watching a team that don't mind a bit of physicality, a little bit of a lot of shithousery, and very good game management, Moneyfields are your team, to be fair. So, I'd try and encourage people to go watch that one, because that will be a good game, because they are, from what I recognise, really two totally different types of sides in terms of the way they play. So it'd be interesting to see how Lally lines up against them and how he gets on with them as well.
And we have to say, on behalf of everyone at Fools Rush In, good luck to the under-18s this weekend. We mentioned a couple of weeks ago they've got the Cup semi-final, which, if I'm right, is this weekend. And obviously, we wish them all the luck in the world in getting to the final. I'm sure Grace will be involved in that game and hopefully putting on a stellar performance. A lot of news in the last week for the women's team, Woody. They announced the season tickets for the new season, but also the big news for them is the fact that they are going back to the county ground next week or next weekend.
Yeah, that's positive news. We knew it was going to happen eventually again this season. So, brilliant. Hopefully, was it 2nd of April? Is that the start of the Easter holidays? It is the start of the Easter holidays, isn't it? So, hopefully it means that it catches people before they're off going away and stuff like that. It's big news. It's the only thing is I'm always skeptical about I think it's great that they're playing at the county ground, don't get me wrong, but I almost kind of don't want it to overshadow this weekend's game. Do you know what I mean? Because yes, it's great and they're getting out now, but can we get this Sunday out of the way first before we really start talking about it? Because again, I think it's 5th against 6th. It's a decent. It's going to Southampton women are a decent side as well, so it should be a good game and a good spectacle, and a lot closer than the games that we've seen at the county ground so far. It'll be a lot more like the games that we've seen at Foundation Park this season. So, obviously, I can't. I'm going to sound hypocritical because I can't go, but I'd really push kind of everybody to get down there and really support, because I just think at the moment, especially at the moment, it's bargain football. You know what I mean? It's not expensive to go watch them. It's getting behind your local team. It's in our home turf. It's the excuses that used to come out that from the people that just don't like women's football, who use the excuse that they were out at Fairford. Where you haven't got the excuse now. So it's get down to the county ground, and I think I think Cozzy mentioned it actually a long time ago on one of our original podcasts that it's a great opportunity to test people that you don't normally, you're not sure whether they like football or not. You know, like if you've got young kids, kind of 4 or 5 years old type thing, a really good opportunity because
I remember him saying it.
unlike at a men's game where you kind of restricted to your seats, you've got to make sure your little brat shuts up or not shuts up and stops running around. But there's a little bit more freedom because obviously there's a bit more room and all of that kind of stuff. So it is a good opportunity to test those who are not quite sure because the women's, they are very engaging with the fans, especially after the game, etc. So, you know, and we all see it a bit more joyous atmosphere, if you like, when it comes to women's football. Although I have been at games that aren't so joyous. The cup final was at the weekend, but it's yeah. So it's I really want to. If you're in doubt, just go and do it. Just go and watch it because if nothing else, you're putting money into a good cause. You know, even if you really fucking hate it, at least you say you've given it a try. It wasn't your cup of tea. That's fair enough. Go home and then go home and the club will got your money then, so it doesn't really matter. But it's you know, but this is we talk about the engagement. I mean, I've said a few times that I'd like the academy to get a bit more media and a little bit more exposure. We've said many times, the fan base have said many times that Swindon really need to cotton on to this kind of getting the women's under their belt, getting, you know, really magnifying what Newcastle are doing so well, what Blackburn are doing so well. And, you know, teams like that, Bristol City have already done it. You know, Oxford United have already done it. You know, we need to start trying to catch up with that. And the only way that we can guarantee the women will be constantly at the county ground is if we get crowds through the door. So I think get down there, get in the stand, get chanting along, doing whatever you want to do, but go down there. It'll be a great game of football next Sunday. And if it's not, I'll apologise in advance. But having watched Southampton against Swindon many times and played against Southampton, I think it'll be a really, really good game. Let's smash that record. Let's not rely on the men's playing first. Let's just get a good crowd down there regardless.
You mentioned about obviously getting this weekend's fixture out the way first, and you're completely right to do so. Just giving people the heads up. It's not confirmed yet, but we obviously have 2 shows before the county ground game. Obviously, we have our usual Monday and Friday shows next week. And I'm fairly confident that we're going to have different members from the women's team on both shows to help us promote it. So hopefully we will have guests from the team on Monday and Friday who will be able to tell you 1,000 times better than I could and maybe 10 times better than Woody could why it would be very much worthwhile going to see them play. Georgia, we've had Joe mention in the past this season about the odd game that he's managed to get to. I know you've been as well to see Swindon women play. What's your experience been like?
I like it. Like, it's different to men's football in so many different ways. Like, I also like the fact that you're like so close to the actual action. Like, you can hear what goes on. You can see more things happening than when you're like in men's football. Everything's just so like what's the word? Intense. Whereas women's football, it's still intense, but it's not as bad. It's not as full on.
And for those who have said, I mean, Woody described it perfectly there. The location thing is kind of being taken out of the equation because it's being played in Swindon. For those who aren't necessarily sold on the quality of football, I know you mentioned the intensity there, but the game itself, would you describe it an enjoyable watch?
Yeah, 100%. It's fun. It's different. It's not like when you say football, people think of men's football. Women's football is so different.
And what would you say were some of the key differences that still allow you to enjoy it, though, even though it's different in your opinion?
We got more than one goal scorer.
Yeah. It is like everybody gets involved in the game, everybody talks to each other, and you can hear that, and you can see it. Like you can just see it being shown through like the actions.
And Joe, bringing you in, as we said, we've discussed this before, but you have embraced the opportunity to go and see games, as we said, taken Georgia, and enjoy the spectacle for what it is as well.
Yeah, definitely. I went in with a very open mind at the start because I didn't really know what to expect. And to be quite honest, I probably the 3 or 4 women's games I've been to this year, I probably enjoyed more than the men. So some actual attacking football and goals being scored. So yeah, it is different. It is it's obviously not the same quality of football that you're going to see at Swindon Town on a Saturday. Sorry, in terms of the speed of the game. The sort of fitness and things, but it is a very enjoyable watch, and it gets pretty feisty at times, so that's always good.
Certainly does. As I say, we wish all the Swindon Town teams the very best of luck this weekend, and we do hope that we are able to be joined by a few of the team on both of our shows next week to help promote the game at the county ground. Woody, just a little word. You said at the moment your game is postponed. What Bassett up to this weekend?
I think it's going to be postponed. We're meant to be Ilminster away, but I don't think their pitch takes the drop of wet rain very well. And looking at the weather over the next 24 hours, that doesn't look too promising. So, in fact, it looks fine tomorrow up until about 10 o'clock at night, where then we've got about 7 hours worth of heavy rain. So we're not holding. We've already made plans in terms of a training session because that will be 3 weeks without a game now. So it'll be probably turn into a bit of a training session down the club, followed by watching England in the clubhouse. Probably is probably how my Sunday is going to pan out, which is a shame because we got Warminster next week, so we would have liked a game before we played them again, first time since the final. So, but if not, we've got Ilminster away, and Ilminster is one of those games that if we are with a chance of staying up, we have to beat them. So it's we'll hopefully we will be playing, but who knows? And yeah.
And I did see. I'm just going to flash this comment from Christian back up because I did see you sort of made a gesture towards it. Is this something you understand the point he's making here, and to some degree, you agree with?
I think I was watching. Listening to one of the team on Broadbent the other week, and they were saying that although it's brilliant that they're playing at the county ground, and obviously they're very grateful for that, the atmosphere is better when they're in Foundation Park because, as Georgia said, they're closer to the pitch and stuff like that. And I think because of the type of setup that Foundation Park is, naturally the sound just carries across the pitch a little bit better, rather than echoing into the stand opposite. So the fact that obviously they got 5 county ground games next season, and
5
then
is part of the
and then I think the ambition is the rest of them at Foundation Park will make a massive difference. And like I say, if I wouldn't even be able to say how many seats they've got at Foundation Park, but it isn't many. They've got 2 stands. If they could possibly, I don't know if there's a planning permission thing here as well, if they could get other terrace stands in, or even have I can't remember which team it is that have it's a non-league side that have fold-away stands as well, that they only get out for big matches, if you like. Even if they did that might attract more people because there is that area behind where the 7-a-side goals are, where the fences are quite tall, so it's quite hard to watch from behind there. And it's but yeah, I agree with Cozzy. It's a fantastic facility. I think they've got the change rooms and all out there already, and why not try and get more at Foundation Park and do more with that, because with it being 3G, it's protected against all weathers as well, pretty much. So the only thing is, I believe, and I hope I don't get the club in trouble for this, I don't believe it meets the criteria for National League for the current league they're in. I think they're okay at the moment, but I think there's new criteria coming in to do with the wheeled goals and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting how because the way that the wheels are on the goals or something, So it'd be interesting if there is any investment into Foundation Park to allow a higher level of football to be played there.
Okay. Let's move on to the next topic then, and we're going to let Ben finish his yawn because I know he'll want to start this one off. The big news today is obviously the county ground purchase being complete. And that was the tweet everyone was waiting for. It's all official, Ben, and it's fair to say you more than pretty much most in our chat were absolutely buzzing that it's all confirmed.
Well, yeah, I think it gives us a sound, solid foundation and stability and a chance to move on. I think one of the main reasons why Swindon dropped behind all the other clubs in the 90s, because in the 90s, your Wolverhampton Wanderers, your Derbies, all these sort of teams, we were playing them week in, week out. We were beating teams like this. They were no better or no bigger than us back in the day. But the problem is they all redeveloped their stadium. They all invested into their stadium and they moved on into the 21st century, whereas we still got left behind in the mid-90s and we just slowly drifted. I think Terry Brady, who came with a lot of money, wanted to buy reinvest into the stadium or buy a new stadium. We couldn't do that for one reason or another. I think is it Donovan or another one, another wealthy owner tried to take Swindon on but failed because he couldn't get the stadium rights and couldn't move on with that, so gave up and moved on. Not owning the stadium has held us back. It's been a millstone round our neck, and the reason why we drifted from a good championship club into a mid-table League Two team. And I think now we've got that, we can have the solid foundations, build the county ground, build the stand-up, and try and make up some ground and just be better and be bigger. And, we've got the support. Let's have the ground for it. And then, we're not going to feel the benefits of this for years. It's not going to affect us this season. It's probably not going to affect us next season. We're not going to start work on it straight away. We're all going to have a vote on it, and then it's going to take a little bit of time to get planning permission, and then we can start work on the county ground. So it's going to be a long time before anything happens. However, it's ours. It's ours now. It's happening. It's going to happen. It's good times are ahead, and so it's a good thing.
Gary, you can see the ticker along the bottom. I'm literally going to ask you that question. How big a step is this for Swindon Town?
Well, it's a huge step in terms of where we can do and what we can do with the ground. What I'd like to see personally is Ben said nothing can be done this year or next year. Well, why not? We own the ground. Now let's get concerts in there in the summer. When the pitch isn't being used. We've had Elton John and people in the past there. Now, I'm not suggesting we're going to get those now, but there must be ways we can get concerts in there. We can get the ground to be used in other ways. Let's find the chaps who are running the club are business people. So there must be ways that they can find to make extra money, revenue for that club throughout summer months when we got nothing else going on. The ground's being ripped out. The pitch is not being used. Let's find a way to actually make use of that ground for other things. So I think it's a huge step for the club. It does feel like we can move ahead. We start to plan. We can start to look at how they're going to develop it, what they want to develop it, whether there's a hotel, whether there's corporate box, all this sort of stuff that comes in that will create us revenue in the forward. But it's down to the business people now to do that side of it and take us forward in the best way possible, really.
Jack, let me ask you, as a younger supporter, how much does this mean anything to you? For all intents and purposes, do you care that we now own the ground, or we kind of discussed it last time you were on? Are you more interested in what's happening on the pitch as opposed to who owns the building?
Well, you see, I quite like the stadium being built up because it means that we can do stuff with it. We can create better atmosphere. We can, get more fans in the ground, because when you've got a newer ground, it appeals to more people. But then when you've got like facilities and stuff, you can get more money, which then you can improve on the team. And then once you've got all that money to improve on the team, you get better performances, and then obviously go up the leagues and stuff, which is something I haven't seen as obviously quite a young supporter.
Something a lot of us haven't seen, not just the really young supporters. That's for sure.
That's oldies in the top row that have hogged it all.
Georgia, let me ask you then. We've obviously discussed this kind of thing before on the pod, but what would you like to see, whether it's something new within the site of the county ground or something improving at the county ground? What are some of the things you'd like to see get worked on?
I don't really know, to be fair. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with the county ground.
Joe, no.
Yeah, but Dad is a very opinionated person, so he's always going to have an opinion on something.
Love it.
Is there anything? Okay, let me try it another way. Is there anything you could think of that would improve your? Forget when you're hobnobbing it in hospitality. When you're there for a normal game, is there anything you could think of that would improve your match day experience, other than the team being better on the pitch?
Well, yeah, that.
But in terms of the surrounding area, or when you're in the stadium.
Yeah, again, I don't really know.
Okay. Joe, how about you?
Yeah, I think there's a lot they can do, to be honest. Obviously, making the place look a bit more presentable is obvious, but there's so much more they can do for kids on a match day. I don't think there's a lot there for kids to do on a match day. They got the junior Reds room, which is fine, but they need more than that. You know, they need stuff going on outside.
That links into Christian's point here. He says about a fan zone.
Yeah, exactly. We need, and to the point that Gary made, they need to find ways of making money that are not just to do with the football. You know, they whether that be, you know, a big conference room for people can hire for meetings and things like that, or you know, hotel. You know, a bit like they're doing now with the helping the homeless people and things with meals. You know, having even something where they can even sell meals cheaply or something like that, just to keep money ticking over in the club. All not just through the summer, through every day of the year when there's no matches on, and
for more than like say 4 hours twice a week.
Exactly, yeah, and I think there's a lot there is a lot they can implement, and you know, even as a nearly middle-aged adult now, there's not a great deal to do on a match day other than watch the match. So, you know, I don't know. Primarily, you're going there to watch the match, but obviously, you know, children, especially the youngsters, the kids want that they'll be enticed by things outside the ground, won't they? You know, Dad, can I have this? Dad, can I have that? Dad, can I go and do that before the game? Mm-hmm. Whatever. So, and yeah, I mean, I get the point that obviously a nicer stadium, people will want to go and see it, but the bottom line is the product on the pitch is going to get people in the door. So it's got to coincide with, we got a nice new stadium, but we're going to have a nice team to go and watch on it as well. So,
Nick, on the flip side of this, this is obviously a big moment, and you've heard from the likes of Ben there about how significant a moment it is, but there are still plenty of people who are, let's say, reserved in their optimism over various elements, whether it's the lack of an actual plan of redevelopment, or even I'm still seeing various negative comments towards the trust itself.
I think the way, from my understanding, the way it's set up, that we've gone down the right road. That it's a 50-50 ownership model, which means the owner of the club can't do what he wants with it. And look at what's happened to teams like Derby, Coventry, Oxford. They've all moved to new stadiums, and it's been a right mess because they've tried to mortgage them off. The owner's kicking them out. they've had issues with whether they can even play there, like at Coventry. So from the way it's been done, that's a massive positive. Like already been said, what we've got to be careful of, and there's a lot of moans that they've already said nothing's going to happen next season. So it's going to be the end of next season before things start happening. But we've got to be careful that we don't throw everything into the stadium and all the facilities around it. So I think that's quite a good thing. Is already been mentioned. The most important thing is what happens on those blades of grass.
Yeah.
Sort that out, and the rest will come, because that will bring revenue in, get us up a higher league. That will bring more away fans in, and then we can start doing all the corporate stuff. So to me, that's the important thing. So on the basis of where we're at, I think we're in a good place. It's really massive benefit that we're not moving away from the county ground, and we're not going to have these brand new horrible standalone stadiums. Where it is great. I say for me, the seating could be better. There could be more room. There could be more food outlets. Mansfield was quite good when we went there. There were lots of little bars outside, lots of food outlets, lots of space. Home and away fans could mingle without any issue. That was quite a good setup because they had the room to do it. So hopefully, with now Town owning all that ground, there's options there. In the more bars and food outlets, the more money you bring in. So there are probably things they could do next season without going into a major infrastructure change. So if they do the small things like that, and like Joe said, the things for the kids, and to get them more interested. So yeah, it's a definite positive, and it's the only way forward. So fair play to everybody who's put a hell of a lot of work in to make that happen. And I know the trust has been getting a lot of criticism. It seems people love having a moan at people, but those guys have put in a tremendous amount of work to make this happen. So fair play to them, and we're there now. And let's crack on. Buy a share in the club. I think quite a few of us have already done that. It's not much. 1969. Get on there, get that, and we're all feel an even bigger part of the club. So yeah, to me it's fantastic.
On that note, you're quite right, Nick. The majority of us, I believe, have got the voting share thing sorted. And the majority of us as well also have kids. I don't know how many of you have been involved or have seen this, if any of you have. What's your take on the promotion from the trust for people to buy non-voting children's shares? It's an interesting approach for me that they've sent this advertisement out for people to basically pay a £5 for their kids to get the same thing, but they don't get to vote. And basically all that £5 does is let the children take part in sort of surveys, and that's it.
I think from what I've read, I think there's it's something to do legally that I think if they're under 18 that they can't buy a full share. I'm not 100% if that's 100% correct, but I did see
aimed at under 16s.
Yeah, I guess it's again to get people to feel involved in the club. So if it's a £5 and they get a certificate saying you've bought into the football club, again it's a good move trying to involve people across all ages.
I mean, I kind of get it from that perspective, but equally, how do I word this to try and do the counterbalance? What is that £5 doing exactly? What is because obviously it's the parents paying it. So say the parents already paid out the round figures, the 20 quid, whatever, for theirs. What is that £5 actually getting them?
Again, like I said, it's getting the youngsters having a link into the club. so that they can feel part of the club, because the mums and dads have, all right, they paid the money up, but they've got something that they are, for want of a better word, a member of Swindon Town Football Club, and that's got to get the interest and take it on from there.
The next big question, obviously, Woody, is again one that we've spoken about times, and Christian's kind of referenced it here. What are you expecting to happen? Is the stadium going to be named after Nigel Eady, do you think? Is there going to be a statue? Is there going to be a stand? There's obviously going to be something, as we've said before, but it's which way do you think it's going to go?
This is, and I mean this in the best manner, I don't think it will be the case of the stadium being named after him. The reason being is because obviously they've just named the foundation indoor thing, indoor thing after him, and I don't think. I mean, I was fortunate enough to meet Nigel Eady once, but I don't think it's what he would want either. I know he's obviously left a legacy and all that. I don't think he would want everything named after him as a result of that. I mean, I'm more for I hate to say it because it makes it sound big time, but a statue wouldn't go amiss. Do you know what I mean? In terms of, if you're thinking of, they want to create that kind of, not to the extreme of it, but they want that kind of Wembley walk. If you look at the original plans, they kind of want that walk into the ground, don't they? And I think there's no reason why you can't have, say, Don and Nigel there. Like what Christian said there, kind of like Nigel Eady Complex or Nigel Eady Park would be good, and then you've got the county ground inside that. That could be good, because regardless of what anybody says, none of this would have happened without him. So he definitely deserves something in there, and something that's going to resonate. Now, my problem with naming the ground here is, unfortunately, maybe even 50 years down the line, money will talk and somebody else will buy the naming rights to the ground. And we could all sit here and say,
at St James's Park.
Yeah. We all know that we'll be up against it and nobody will want it to happen, but it will happen. Whereas if you've got kind of the whole area named after him, or like you say, you've got the statue in his memory and all of this kind of stuff. I mean, the fact that we've just got like the little snippets that just remind him of what he's actually done. If we get the conference centre, the Nigel Eady Conference Centre, or whatever, there has to maybe a room in that conference centre named after him, type thing, the Nigel Eady Trust Room or whatever. So yeah, I think I really don't want to dishonour the guy. I just don't think naming the stadium after him will be the right move. I think we need those kind of like little tokens towards him as well. And but yeah, I mean, we said, I know you didn't ask me this question, but we said about like the thanks and that, the trust they do get criticism. I've criticised them plenty of times, but people that kind of go behind the scenes, like is it Steve Myton? Is that how you pronounce his surname? People like that who have gone, relatively quiet throughout this process, but would no doubt be putting in the legwork behind the scenes. So, and all of the lawyers that have given up their free time and stuff like that, because we know they ain't cheap. So it's fantastic applaud to them, really. And I think the only reason I think it's getting maybe some negative pushback from what I've seen is that I think it's because it feels like it's taken so long. And we know why, but I guess mentally it feels almost like quite draining. And I think Swindon fans were still kind of living on that 10 years of burn almost. So we're just not naturally a optimistic bunch when it comes to it. So, no. But yeah, I think there's so much they can do with it now. I think I massively agree with having some form of fan zone, as many people have mentioned. The moneymaker will be the conference centre. It always is. It did the Majeski a massive loads of favours. It did Bristol City a load of favours, because there's so much you can do with that. If we can upgrade our corporate hospitality side, but if you look at the corporate hospitality boxes, to me, that's only going to be, those are the things that are going to be beneficial when the pitch gets better. Because with all due respect, if I'm a guy taking my clients out and I say, let's go watch Swindon Town in corporate hospitality in League Two, it's not very appealing because I know the guy the kind of guy next to me is probably offered them Man City hospitality, so it's kind of, we do need to go hand in hand, but I think the conference centre will be a massive plus. Hotel, I'll give or take a hotel. I'm not too worried about that side of it. But yeah, I just think it's just so good to see that it's just generating into the Foundation Park's a beautiful facility. Even when you look at like just from an aerial shot of everything, you've got the cricket club, you've got the foundation, you've got the athletics club. Like they could probably do a little bit of work, to be fair, but it just looks like a really nice big complex. And I think if they sort out the Shrivenham Road side and the car park side and just made it, as Joe said, a bit more appealing on the eye, it could be a moneymaker off show days as well. Like the foundation could do a lot more stuff with the public, and like you say, the food outlets, we could have food outlets in there, we could have match only bars and all of that kind of stuff. It would be so much better. And yeah, so aesthetically, yes, it needs a lot of work. We need to do a lot of work on that. And I do wonder if it's I can't work out what I would put as a priority, whether I would prioritize the outside or like the inside with the standing terraces and all of that kind of stuff. I think I what I really want to see on this great day of when the plans come out in say 12 months time is when we drive up to County Ground, we look like a fucking good stadium. You know what I mean? We just look like that. Even you look at like Worcester Raiders, for example. I know they've gone under, but their stadium's decent. Everything about that, and they're bloody Hellenic League football. I know they're saved by the rugby, but in fact they don't play there anymore, if I remember rightly. Joe might be able to correct me on that one, but it's so you can look really, really good. That will generate money in itself. So the conference centre is the big thing for me. I think that will be the moneymaker. And yes, on a match day, let's get the fan zone out there. Let's get the open bar like they do at Mansfield and stuff like that. That'll be awesome. But please don't come up with the excuses, club, in a year's time to say we couldn't put the money onto the pitch because we were too busy putting the money into the ground. If that comes out, they'll steadily lose all of this optimism and all of this excitement around it, because this should be, as Christian just said, this is a fucking great day in a club. Not many clubs can go through what we've just gone through in terms of this. I've got my £19.69 share, as the other guys have. I'm thinking about the kids one. I think it could do a little bit more, but it's a fantastic day, and we've got to look at it that way. That this hopefully is the day to take the club forward as a club. We'll sort the team stuff out on another day.
Okay. Just a couple more things to look at. Neighbourhood notices, essentially. It's kind of already been mentioned, so I don't want to spend too much time on it. But what did everyone think when they saw the fan interaction thing and Swindon moving up the most amount of places from bottom of the table up to, I think it was 20th? We all had our own opinions in the WhatsApp chat, varying people. I was quite expressive in my views, but Gary, let me start with you. Do you understand how Swindon have improved so much in that particular unit of measure?
Well, it's clearly last year, not this year.
Yes, well, quite. I didn't like to say it.
Because we've clearly scored an own goal this year with a blackout and bits and pieces like that, which, we've clearly gone backwards this year, but we can argue there are slowly moving in the right direction. We are starting to see a bit more comms, a little bit more fan engagement. Some right, some not, but clearly the club are trying. So if we're making some progress, then long may it continue.
Yeah, I think that was the point you made there was very much the thoughts of a lot of fans. Joe, would you agree that looking at the results, it was probably pre-Christmas maybe that the majority of this data was collated? Because since Christmas, there's been lots of sarcastic retorts towards clear and transparent communication from the club.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, it's so much better than it was 2 years ago. You can't argue that. The blackout things, I do sort of understand. You know, the club can't really say anything, so they're not going to say anything in those situations. It's just, 15 years ago, nobody would think anything of it with no social media around, but now everyone can have their opinion on things, and things do seem to drag on a lot longer than they seem to used to drag on. But yeah, I mean, I think it says perhaps some other clubs need to improve themselves if we've gone up that high, personally. I think it says more about them, more about some of the other clubs than us, personally. I think we've done a good job to improve, but we've still got a long way to go. But I think, and I think some of those clubs that are below Swindon should be giving us a hard look at themselves, personally.
Georgia, can I ask you, similar to some of the ways I phrased questions to Jack, as a younger fan, do you feel engaged by the club in their output, whether that's social media and other forms of communication?
I don't really know. With their social media, it's a bit, hit and miss.
Yeah.
So in that way, I think maybe a bit more like fan interaction. Like, how we get like the votes for like who we think man of the match and stuff.
Yeah.
Like more stuff like that about other things.
Yeah, I understand that.
I think that would be quite like just to get like a fan's interpretation on the game.
And in an era where, I mean, we are one of them, in an era where there's lots of fan-made content to bolster what's there. Obviously, although it's not technically the club, supposedly, it quite clearly is the club production of the life of the kit man that's started coming out as well. Do you think adding things like that to the club's belt of content is a good thing?
Yeah, I think it is, because like you get to see like what happens on like the inside, like what happens behind the scenes, like things we don't see. So I think it's quite good.
And Jack, same for you. How engaged do you feel from the club with what they put out currently?
Again, I feel we could probably be included a bit more, but same thing, votes and stuff like that. I think that'd be good, because once again, you get more of a fan's interpretation, especially from the younger audience, because quite a lot of the time we have different views. Like older people, more experienced people, like yourself, I feel, like Nick and Woody and stuff. So yeah,
I like how the older people bracket ranges from me to Nick to Woody. Cheers, Jack. But no, I do understand the point you're making there. Absolutely.
I think one thing the club do need to improve is when they're sending tweets and things, especially, I think this annoys me on match days. If it's been shit, don't say we've been unlucky.
They want more honest social media output.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you're not going to be rude and things like that, but don't turn around and say, "Oh, it's been a tough day at the office. We've had some bad luck." No, mate, we were shit. That's simple as that. They sugarcoat things way too much.
What a great point it was on the weekend.
Yeah, it wasn't. It was fucking pointless. And it's like, yeah, little things like that annoy me. Like when they're just blatantly sugarcoating stuff, and it's like, you don't need to do that. Everyone knows it was shit, mate. Just say it was bad. I understand the guy's being paid by the club to put out content, blah blah blah. But we're fans. We're not stupid. We know what we've seen. Right, some of us are stupid, myself included. But we know what we've seen on the pitch. We know it's not been good enough. So you don't need to put out on Twitter, "Oh, we've been unlucky against a good side today." Well, no, we were just poor and we were outplayed. Simple as that.
We've had a comment in specifically for you here, Joe. Joey, first person I've ever known call you Joey. Yeah, Joey and Georgia on the panel on the same night. If I put my phone behind my head when they're speaking, it's like being sat at my seat at the CG.
Yeah. PJ, known him a long time. He sits in front of us at football. So I'll be a lot louder normally when I'm behind him, so he's probably quite grateful that I'm being relatively calm tonight.
In other news, Nick, Fools Rush in favourite Tyree Shade, who we spoke about getting his international call-up, played 58 minutes on his debut on Thursday.
There you are. There's a player. We've said there's a player there. I don't know what the standard is. I don't even know what the result was in the end. I know they were winning 2-1 at one stage. Did they win the game?
They won 3-1.
Right. So, I mean, that's good for him. That's good for his confidence. It's good for the club that, we've got more. Well, I suppose we're now back down to one international player. Now Johnny Williams is retired from the Welsh side.
That's correct.
So does it show we're developing players? I guess so, that he's got some recognition. Yeah, good
Without
luck
wishing
to him.
to sound, I know this is going to sound more disrespectful than it should, but this is one of the nations where any sort of allegiance and you're getting called up.
Yeah, of course it is. I don't disagree with you, Fifey, but at the end of the day, he can be quite proud that he's played international games. So
absolutely, and there's no taking that away from him.
And I guess for some people, they're probably glad that he is playing over there because he won't be available Saturday. So. Not myself. I still rate that there is a player in there. He's probably not a 90-minute player. He's not a starter. When he's come on his sub in the last few games, he has made a difference. He's done well. He's set up goals. So, maybe he's coming out of his shell. So yeah, and any player that gets a level of recognition is good. So good luck to the kiddie.
And let's face it, Gary, if you were offered 2 weeks in the Caribbean, you wouldn't say no, would you?
Well, considering what the weather's like at the moment, yeah, no, I'd happily take it. It's absolutely keeping it down. 100%. Yeah, give me that sun and sand, and I'll go and play football for 58 minutes.
Lovely. And I've also noted on the ticker coming up on Fools Rush In, mentioned earlier when Woody was doing his debrief, we are very hopeful of having a few special guests next week from the women's team. We have also spoken about doing one more watch along for the game on Easter Monday. That's 98% confirmed. We'll be doing that for anyone not making the trip. So something else to look forward to, as well as a large array of guests of opposition fans in the closing weeks of the season. I think we've got something like 6 or 7 of the games covered with opposition fans coming on the preview shows on the Friday nights or the Monday nights for the couple of Tuesdays we've got left, including Grant and Liam from Lower League Look. They've both agreed to come back on for their respective games at Hartlepool and Bradford, among a number of others. So that is all still to look forward to between now and the end of the season. We're hoping the next watch along isn't a 0-0 draw, but even if it is, we're just hoping it's a significantly better game than the last one we did. But there will be more on that closer to the time. Ben's had to go. He was clearly needing an early night. So we thank him for his time. We thank everyone who has watched along and anyone who will be watching or listening back. But Gary, Joe, Woody, Jack, thank you very much. Georgia, thank you as well for making your debut. I like to ask people, for someone who's come on for the first time, would you recommend it to other people?
Yeah, definitely. This is your podcast. You shouldn't be saying that.
And Joe, would you recommend we have Georgia on again?
Yes.
She's a bit too sensible for us, I think. So maybe.
I was a sensible adult last weekend. Not last weekend, the weekend before. Yeah.
You were the responsible adult during the sponsorship weekend, that's for sure.
Yeah,
that is a fair point.
And what better way to end the show than Dan saying, "Nice to see more than one cat make an appearance on FRI." Thank you to everyone who's appeared tonight. Thank you to everyone in the chat. Have a great weekend, and let's hope for not only a good performance, but a good result on Saturday. We will see you again on Monday. But until then, from everyone at Fools Rush In, good night.
No.
Take my hand, take my whole life too, but I can't help falling in love